Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
It is almost half a century since Enoch Powell gave his infamous Rivers of Blood speech, a prophecy of doom, blaming immigrants for what he declared would be a violent and fearful future. His predictions met with widespread outcries, but the speech provoked racist attacks, including in his own Wolverhampton constituency. This year, that same constituency elected the West Midlands' first black MP, and Fatima Manji has been to meet her to find out how things have changed.
In this country, in 15 or 20 years' time, the black man will have the whip hand over the white man.
An inflammatory speech that arguably still casts a shadow over Britain. In 1968, Enoch Powell warned of the perils of immigration. The ensuing controversy seemed to be relished by Powell himself.
And how happy I am to be in my own constituency. The nicest place for a Member of Parliament to be, especially when he's such a popular member.
Nearly 50 years on, we've returned to that Wolverhampton constituency to meet newly elected MP Eleanor Smith. She's brought us to the old Conservative headquarters, now an Afro-Caribbean community centre.
How do you feel then, walking these steps as the MP where once he would have?
Poetic justice, does that come to mind? But actually, it feels right. It really feels right. And again, I know, as I says, it shows you how Wolverhampton has moved on. There's still a lot of inequality amongst black people, but there's inequality amongst the whole cast of society as well. Not just within blacks, but in the white working classes. And we have to look at that.
In 1968, the media descended on schools in Wolverhampton in search of a claim made by Powell that there was a school with only one white child.
Now, these are the children who should be with Mr. Crosby, so listen carefully for your name. And if I don't pronounce it correctly, just try to understand that they're as strange to me as my name is to you.
The school was never found by the press, but they did find a city stoked up by division.
I just asked the teacher how many coloured people there were in the class. If there was above 50%, I wasn't going to let her have a stop here.
You're taking her home?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
To have 90% in the class, in the school itself, is a bit too much, I think. That isn't integration, that's colour bar in reverse, in my opinion.
5 decades later, a conversation in the city is beginning about the legacy left by Powell.
There's a huge rise in racist attacks following the Rivers of Blood speech in Wolverhampton. But there's also a history of racism in Wolverhampton that we have to talk about. There are a number of colour bars in Wolverhampton, in bars, in cafes, in restaurants. Even in the workplaces, workers talk about separate toilets for European and non-European toilets. And it's important to talk about that history of racism, but also to talk about the anti-racism. So it's not true that in Wolverhampton everybody supported Powell.
At the height of the tensions, photographs of children in school became political props. Best friends Mike and Ray have only just been reunited.
Movie stars, Ray. Movie stars.
We meet them inside the club where Enoch Powell's office once stood, then a place where black people couldn't even enter. They have fond memories of school, despite the tensions at a time when even a football game risked the peril of racist chants from the grammar school students next door.
When the ball went onto the grass, like if it really went far, I used to say, oh, okay, I can't fish it. I said, Michael, go and get that ball.
I didn't realise why they sent me to get the ball, but Ray would have known, because if Ray had stepped on that grass, it would have been a different response to me going to get it. I remember saying to my parents, what is that graffiti on the walls? The swastikas. I can remember saying, what is that? What does that mean? You know, what does that mean? What does that swastika mean? You know, and go home and all that sort of stuff. Things like that stuck in my mind all these years. So the photo shoot, seeing me and Ray in the media.
I never really saw anything in between me, thinking, well, he can't be your friend because of a different colour. I didn't even look at it in that sense. We were just friends, we got on, and that was it.
How many immigrant children have you got at this school?
Of the 359 I have on roll, 240 are immigrant children.
I suppose the main problem when they arrive is communication, because presumably they can't speak English.
These women are some of the children filmed at the time. The amusement of seeing themselves is soured by the fact they were portrayed as an alien invasion.
Just watching that back, what are your feelings?
I think just the thought that they could be sort of talking about us in that way when you're teaching these immigrant children, so we was, you know, something else. You know, you couldn't understand English, couldn't speak English.
There aren't any Asian ones here, but we all spoke English, though.
Well,
you would speak English because you were born here.
In England. At the time, you didn't know these things were happening. Now you know what that atmosphere was actually like. How do you reflect on how things have changed?
It's improved. I don't think you can say it hasn't improved. It's got to have been better than it was then, but perhaps not by as much as it should have done by now.
I just think people have become more sophisticated in the way they behave towards people who are different. There are laws now that prohibit people from saying things overtly, but actions, for me, it's people's behaviour.
But black history in the schools, I think, should be promoted more, because it's not.
Enoch Powell had a very narrow view of what is English or what is British, you know, because this is what Britain looks like now. This is what Britain looks like, you know, and we've won, so it feels good.
Fatima Manshi reporting.